Genuine joy is not the same as positive thinking. It's not the same as religious friendliness. Joy is not even the same as enthusiasm during corporate worship. True joy must be visible to others, but it can be experienced on the inside, even when the trials of life make the outward appearance seem bleak. Oh, okay. Good afternoon. How are you today? I'm glad to have you with us. I've got my friend Mike with me today, Mike Poe. Say hello, Mike.
Hello. How are you?
This is going to be my last Pastor Connect program. Some of you are probably glad to hear that, but you're not rid of me yet. What we're going to do is next week, we're going to change the name and maybe change some things around a little bit, and this is going to be Dying to Self Daily. Dying to Self Daily.
That's awesome.
Of course, our Friday night group is called Dying to Self, and we get that from the scripture. If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. That's where we're going to start at. Mike, open us up in prayer.
Absolutely. Father, thank you for all the blessings that you've given me today. Thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and to share the way that you've impacted and changed my life and continue to change my life daily. Thank you for Pastor Alan, and thank you for the river and all the people that have helped along this journey. And I pray for everybody who is still out there fighting the battle with addiction or abuse or depression or anxiety. And I pray that their eyes are open and to the light, and that they know that they don't have to live in darkness anymore. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. You're going to have to stay up fairly
I'm
close
sorry.
to the mic.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sure.
Dying to self daily. What does that mean to you, Mike?
It is daily to let go of all the things that keep me from being as close to Jesus as I want to be. It's a lot of things that I grew up holding on to, and it's hard to let go of those daily. And it's also an eye opener. It shows me where I can use improvement, and then it also is a reminder to show me how far God's brought me, where I've come from and where I'm excited to go. It means a lot of things,
You use the expression, as close to God as I want to be.
Yeah.
How close do you want to be, Mike?
I mean, I want to bump into each other daily. Where I come from, where I've started this journey, and where I'm at now is it just blows me away every day that I think about it. From addiction and selling drugs and really just bringing disaster everywhere I went. Now I have peace and I have hope and I'm joyful every day, no matter what is thrown in my direction. I hold on to my joy because I see what God has done for me this far. I'm excited. I mean, there's no limitations of what He can do, And to not ever known a life like that, to know that life now, it moves me, always. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
You're joyful whether you've got money in your pocket,
Absolutely.
or whether you don't have no money and no gas in the tank, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. When I tell people my story and I tell them about the things that God's done for me, I always go back to a few months ago when you asked me here at service. You said, "Are you going to love God when you're not being blessed?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Sure, why not?" And then as I went over there and sat down a few minutes later, I thought about it because I didn't really think about it when you asked me. So when I come back and I don't know what that means because I wake up this morning and I'm blessed. I'm in my own bed. I'm sober. I have a job. I don't have people calling saying, oh, I'm wondering for drugs, or somebody saying, you were at my house last night and something came up missing, or I don't have to tell the kids that we have to hide the car today because the repo man's coming. I'm blessed in so many ways. I don't understand not being blessed now, and I thank God that I don't live that way anymore. And so really I am blessed, whether the sun's shining or it's not. No matter what's going on, I know that I'm blessed and highly favored by God.
Okay, you've been doing this several months now.
Yeah.
So as you, I don't want you judging anybody or anything,
No.
and this is not judging, but just as a general overview, would you say that a lot of people don't see their blessings?
Yeah. A lot of things are taken for granted, And somebody I feel that hasn't been through the walk that I have, they don't understand what it means to wake up in your own bed every day. Just like I probably wouldn't understand what it's like to wake up and not have a bed every day,
Right.
So yeah, I don't think that we all think of everybody's walk in that.
We start from such different places in life. But wherever you are, wherever you started from, the blessings of God can make that greater.
Oh yeah,
True
definitely.
statement?
Absolutely, yeah. I see God working every day in the way that I carry myself, in the interaction I have with my kids, the interaction that I have with people that I didn't have before, especially my family,
A year ago, could you have envisioned yourself sitting here doing this?
No way, absolutely not, never, no. A year ago, it lucky I remember my name, yeah.
So take us back to maybe a year ago, or at some point near that, and move us forward to where we are here today. Let's just take a few minutes, and I'll let you talk
Okay.
About how that came about, what transpired, and things like that.
Absolutely. It was, as a matter of fact, it was a year ago this month that I started the best job I've ever had. I was making more money than I knew what to do with. And, I was selling drugs on top of that. And I was just miserable. And I was to a point in life where if I wanted something, I could go buy it. I had that kind of money. And I was so unhappy.
Where most people really want to be.
Right. Where I wanted to be,
And you were miserable.
Miserable. Absolutely miserable. My home life was miserable. My work life was miserable. I was miserable with myself. But at the time, I didn't realize why I was miserable. I just know that I was trying to fill a void that I couldn't fill. And
we don't realize we have a Jesus hole.
No, we don't. We don't. And like I've said in the past, my relationship with God was always, please God, get me out of this. Please God, I promise I'll never do it again. And that was prayer to me. That's how you prayed. And even after I went to jail and I had a relationship with Jesus for a few months, I still prayed like that because I didn't know any other way. And like I said, God was definitely respected in my family growing up, in my household, or my households. I was raised by aunts and uncles and step-parents and all that. Every one of them respected God. It was a thing that was respected, and you definitely didn't talk against it, but we didn't talk about it either.
Right.
It was just something that you didn't touch, I can remember popping off at the mouth one time, and my old man sat up on the couch, and he said, don't play with Jesus. And I thought, well, why? We never talk about it. So, he was like, you don't mess with that. He said, you respect it. And that was the closest conversation that I ever remember having with him about Jesus,
So that's probably a holdover from being raised in the Bible Belt.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Everybody knows about Jesus, church, God, those words.
Oh, yeah.
But they're really not part of our life.
No. I never had any idea of what Jesus has called us to do, other than I believe Jesus died for me. I believe he rose after 3 days, and that was all I ever knew. That was it. I had no idea of the Great Commission or any of the things that we're told that we're called to do, and I'm sure there's everybody out there is just like that. So many families are raised that way, and
many, many, many families are raised just like that in this area.
yeah, it is. And my aunt, she's been a major influence. She's like my mother. She's raised me all my life, and
major influence in your life.
Major influence. And so here lately, I've kind of used her as a sounding board in my study. I call her and we talk the Bible and we go over things. And so many times my opposition is, well, that's not what my grandma told me. And not to sound cliche with that, but that's, my great grandma was a godly woman. She was.
Right.
And so that's helped me to study more and to know my facts, because the grandma religion is a hard one to beat sometimes, But and she was a godly woman, she was, but I don't think that she lived by Acts chapter 2 type stuff as much as yeah,
Acts chapter 2 type stuff.
Yeah, the stuff,
doing the stuff.
The stuff. Yeah.
That's what real Christianity is.
Right. Yeah. And the stuff is awesome. It is like Sunday, the stuff was awesome. It is. It's great.
Okay. Go ahead and share a little bit more testimony, and then I want to jump back to what we did Sunday.
Okay. One of my pivotal moments in life came, and it was May or June of last year. I was pulled over. And I had a lot of drugs on me, and so I wound up going to jail. And I run into a guy from my neighborhood, and he's in there, and he's deep in the Bible every minute of the day, unless we're eating or sleeping, he's preaching. And so it kind of catches my attention, and he remembers me, and he starts talking to me. And so, like everybody else, I start going to church to get out of the cell and to catch a break.
And that's a lot of times that's the way it is in jail. And the preachers, myself, whoever comes in there knows you got three kinds of people in a church service. You got those that are there because they're serious about God. Mm-hmm. You got those that are there because they just want to get out of the cell. They're bored. They need something to do. And then you got those that are there because they want to pass contraband or do evil.
Right, yeah. And so I go, and like I said, I met you and Heath all for the first time, and I don't know. I mean, I know that it was God, I do, but for some reason, I just wanted that peace, And so I said to myself, I was like, I'm gonna get close to these people, no matter what it costs me, because in my addictive mentality, that's what we do, And I'm gonna break this down for on dope terms, because that's what I know, like when I was selling dope, I met the main guy, or he was my main guy, and it was good, and I was going to get there, and so I went to all lengths to make sure that we were buddies, that we were close together, because he had what I wanted. And same thing with you. I think I shook your hand once, and then I finally put in a one-on-one with you. I was like, well, he can't ignore me now. We got to talk, And I really poured my heart out to you that first time.
And he was talking about a one-on-one where I come in, and I'm in a little area. They call it a law box.
Right.
I'm in a little area, and they bring an inmate in, and we get to spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes more together, just one-on-one. Okay, we can talk about anything. Let's just talk.
Right. And so I knew that would be my foot in the door, so to speak. And I think we covered a lot that day.
Yes.
Cried a lot, talked a lot, prayed a lot. And so then
Crying was not really part of your life up until that point.
No, not at all. No, you had to be in big trouble, or, in my case, it was usually to get out of something, It seemed to work, because nobody ever seen me cry. So if I cried, then he must be sincere. So let's cut him some slack this time.
Yeah.
That's how that worked. But now I tear up and cry at the drop of a hat, and it's a joyful cry. It's not I'm busted or nothing. I'm thankful.
Tears of joy are completely different, aren't they?
Absolutely different. Absolutely, yeah, they are. My kids have seen me cry several times here lately, and that was, usually if I cried, something bad's going on. Like, what's wrong, Dad? What's up? And now it's like, in my mind, I think of where we were before, where we're at now, and it's worthy of tears. It really is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, It is.
You know, I probably went the first 6 months of my Christian life crying every single time I went to church. At some point in the service,
Yeah.
at some point in that hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5, whatever it was, at some point in that service, there were tears flowing.
Yeah.
Every time.
Well, I read a book when I was in jail, the Unqualified, and I remember one of the first chapters in the book. He said that it was nothing for his kids to come in and find him just face down weeping in the floor. And I'm thinking,
Pat, ain't
yeah,
it?
yeah, Pat Chatline,
Chatline.
yeah. And I'm thinking, what is this? What is this guy crying about? But that was then, you know. Now as I learned and I've watched his videos and studied him a little bit. Oh man, he's a powerful man. He is.
Yes, he is.
He is a man of God, without a doubt.
North Georgia revival preacher.
Yeah.
He and Pastor Todd Smith are friends.
Yeah.
I got several of his books into the jail. He's a great guy.
And the way he conveys his message is awesome, you know, because he did a lot of youth pastor work too. So it just like, you know, he's up to date with the culture and the way that he talks. You know,
Right.
I like it. It's really good. But so when I get out of jail, you know, and we had a saying in jail that was, most people when they get out, they'll leave Jesus in the Sally Port or leave him at the railroad tracks.
Yep.
And I swore that would not be me. And I made it 2 hours when I got home, and I was right back over there getting high again. You know, and so
Good intentions will buy you nothing.
no, nothing at all. And then you know, I thought that while I was gone, I had perfected the skill of hiding this. And I wish that my friends would have stopped me in the middle of this and told me how ridiculous I was being, because, you know, now that it's over, they're like, oh, it was horrible. But, you know, they could have told me in the middle of it without me making myself look like such a fool.
He was playing both sides of the fence, coming to church, but still getting high. But he wouldn't give up on God.
Right.
Okay, he was still hanging on to that, but he thought he was hiding it so well that nobody knew.
Right. Right.
It doesn't work that way.
No, especially when you're in a room full of addicts, recovered addicts. It's hard to hide it.
Not recovering, but recovered.
Right? Yeah, definitely recovered. And so this went on from August until January, February, and then we'll just skip ahead because you know the nonsense. And then on February 27th, I'm riding my motorcycle home from work, and I'm freezing and I'm cold, and I'm thinking about some things that Bishop Lance Johnson had said about how he was saved and delivered radically, and in my experience, that's not possible.
You had heard me say it.
Right.
Okay, I was radically delivered instantly all at once.
Right, but it doesn't work that way.
And then you heard Bishop say it.
Right, and I was like, "What a crock! It's not true." And you know, and I'm not in dire straits like I was when I was in jail. When I was in jail, it's a wonder that the walls didn't crumble as hard as I prayed. You know, so I'm not in that state. You know, I mean, I am, but I'm not consciously in that state. You know, because I got money in my pocket, I got dope in my pocket, I got a pretty fly motorcycle, I got a job. I'm not really looking for God to reach in and tap me on the shoulder at this point, you know, not yet. I still haven't taken my time for my case yet, but I still got some freedom left. And but anyways, I'm on the bike and I just start talking to God, and I was like, if you can do that, if that's a possibility, if you will take this from me, I will do whatever you tell me to do the rest of my life. I was like, you can have it. It's yours. And so I never give it another thought. I go home, I go to bed, wake up the next day, everything's still the same. And in fact, it's on a 1 to 10, it was a 15 on the worst scale. Me and my wife are fighting over, I don't even know what, but I know that it's getting really bad. It's getting dangerous. You know, and my wife's like, I'm fixing to call the law to get you out of here. And I was like, I'll leave. It's fine. You know, and now, since I studied the Bible and I know what I've read, I didn't understand what was happening that day. But the way that I'm behaving, I'm spitting in my floor. I spit on my wife. I really showed out. And when Jesus out
of character.
Oh, so out of character, very, very out of character. You know, that's just, and for no reason. I mean, there was a reason, but that day there, I don't know what's going on. But I read that when Jesus would cast out and call out these evil spirits of people, they would throw themselves to the ground and they would spit and foam and cuss and cut themselves, and and even though all that's going on in my house, I left there and I came here, and it was like there was a sense of peace. I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight. I don't have any money, and but I'm not worried, and I find this phone laying on the ground. And I come here to church, and the lady that on the phone called it, and she's like, "Can I come get my phone?" Or I told her I'd bring it to her, and she said, "No, I'll come and get it." And I tell her I'm here at the river, and she comes from Madisonville to here. And I invited her in, to be nice, and she was like, "No," she was like, "but God said you need a blessing," and she gives me $60, and that was the wink right there, that was like a "it's going to be okay" type thing.
Getting your attention.
Definitely got my attention. It was cold outside, and I was broke, and it definitely got my attention. And so the next day I go home, I take a shower, and there's really nothing said. I go in there and I lay down in the bed with my wife and I go to sleep. And it was like there was a peace there. There wasn't all that tension. And I still don't notice it at this point, but in hindsight, looking back, I see it, And then after that, I don't know. I mean, I'm 3 or 4 days in, and I get to thinking about it, and I'm like, I have not wanted any dope. I haven't craved any dope. I don't. It's not even a desire, because
It's gone.
It's gone. Yes, I've been sober a bunch of times in life. I've been to jail plenty, whether it be for family or for kids or for parole or whatever. I've been sober a lot, but I've never not had a reservation. I've not had a desire. I've not had a craving. I've not had a bag stashed somewhere for down the road, and. It was unexplained. It moved me. I mean, you see my reaction, right? Like the first couple days through this, I'm like, I just can't believe it. Like, how did this happen? I've been doing this for 21 years trying to get sober. I've prayed so many times that the sun wouldn't come up the next day, or I'd pray that I'd die in my sleep. Anything to keep me from having to
feed that craving.
That and to own up to what I'd done the day before to feed the habit, or done while I was high, or who I'd messed over, or who I'd stole from, or and I don't have that no more. I don't have those feelings. I don't have that desire for this to be gone, because it's gone. I mean, unless I don't know how you know, but when you know. It's gone. There's nothing there, and it's like a whole weight is lifting off of you, like a complete change of heart. It's Jesus. I mean,
no other way to explain.
Nothing. And I get so excited when I talk about it, and it gets
still today.
Right now, I'm sitting there, I'm jumping right now. But one of the best blessings that I've had came yesterday. And I've heard a lot of pastors say that when they plant the seed, if you ever get to see the fruit of that, it's a blessing, right? And a lot of times you don't. You speak it, you go on, and to the guy that talked church to me and got me here yesterday, I seen him in bad shape, really bad shape. And I told him, I was like, you led me to Jesus, and that saved my life, and I never would have thought it in that moment, because in the moment you don't look at it like that, but looking back, it's like that was a pivotal moment. It was a life-saving moment in my life, and he was very overcome with tears, and I was like, you started this train on this course right here. I was like, and I want you to know that it was not wasted. It was definitely an investment. I was like, you changed my family. It got me closer to, it introduced me to Jesus. It didn't get me closer to him. It introduced me to him. It set my life on a whole different course.
Without him studying the Bible.
I wouldn't.
Just burying his face in the book while he was in a jail cell.
I wouldn't have met Alan Menser. Because, without the beard, you looked kind of mean. I was a little intimidated, But, but yeah, I wouldn't have, I would have went to church maybe, but I would have not had a desire to keep going for sure, because I didn't know that this kind of life existed. I mean, some of the things that I heard when I first got in there, I was like, what? No,
Not possible.
No.
Not for somebody like me anyway.
And kind of scary, because I didn't know what talking in tongues was. And the first time I heard it, I was like, hold on a minute. I gotta go. It kind of took me by surprise. I never experienced nothing like that. I've heard people say it, but I never knew what it meant until you see it. And then the very first time that I come here, I get out of jail on August the 15th, on August the 16th, I told you, I said, I can't make it to church tonight. It's raining outside. I got my bike. And I don't think it had sprinkled a drop, really. And then my wife set it up where I could hear Bishop on TV while I'm doing the dishes, you know. I'm in there cleaning up. And he said, I don't remember what he said even that sparked me. But do you remember?
I don't remember the exact.
No, I mean, I come flying in the door here. Everybody else was leaving, and I was like, I missed him. And then there y'all were by the stage. And I don't, you know, the whole falling down thing, I was like, they're pushing them. They got to be, you know, I've never seen that before. And so I'm like, if this guy tries to push me to the floor, we're going to have a problem. And he didn't, but and I'll never forget what he said to me. You know, he gave me a hug, and he said, God told me that you are going to minister. He said, I see you from east to west, moving back and forth, telling your story. He said, and I know that you've got a great one. And we've known each other 5 minutes. And I'm like, he doesn't know he didn't know half of it. And next thing I know, I'm laying on the floor, you know, and it was amazing. It was different. It was total surrender at that point, you know, total surrender. But I didn't understand the one thing. I'm still holding on to the one thing, you know. And again, Bishop intervened here, and he's talking about, you know, you want to walk with Jesus, which is where I was at, right? He was like, but you're going to walk back here, but still walk so you can see him. But then that gives you the ability to, you know, still twist that pipe once in a while. And I was like, that's it. That's where I'm going to be right there. That's where I want to stay. And then he's like, until he keeps walking, and then you're back here and you're no longer spectating. You're not even involved. And I was like, I can't do that. And, you know, and it was at that point that I was like, okay, God, if you take this from me, you know, we'll do this. Because I really didn't think it would happen anyway. And he was like, okay, you know, and I heard something the other day that I repeat a lot now. And he said that, you know, God, your reputation's on the line.
Yes.
And that's truly, I didn't say that because I didn't know that then, but I know that's kind of like what was happening, because I do believe that I know a lot of people. That gives me a little bit of influence in certain spots, and to go out and say, oh, well, I tried and he didn't touch me, that definitely would have damaged his reputation, you know. And now it's so much better because now, didn't I just see you a year ago on the busted page or in stripes? You sure did. And now you see me way up here standing with Jesus because I don't have to live that life no more. You know, so now he gets all the glory for that. And
who gets all the glory?
God gets all the glory for that.
All the glory.
Every bit. And that fixes that reputation that somebody else may have tried to destroy. You know.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love it. I love you. I love the river. I love everything that God has done for me. The paths that I've crossed with, I'm so thankful for it.
You use that word love.
Yeah.
Did you really understand that word before you met Jesus?
No, I didn't. I always said that I learned how to love, you know, when my kids were born, and that's a lie. You know, I mean, I loved them, but I didn't understand what love was because I put my habits and my wants and my needs above them. When it come to my addiction, you know, I didn't really care if I missed a ball game or if I was absent.
You put you first.
Absolutely, yeah. I put my addiction first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our Friday night group, what's the name of it?
Dying to self. Dying to
Dying
self.
to self.
Yeah.
When you die to self, nothing you want comes first anymore.
No. Jesus comes first.
All the time.
Always, yeah. Always.
You know, and that's why you know, starting next week, this is going to be Dying to Self daily instead of Pastors Connect. Mm-hmm. We're changing the format all 3 days. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. Pastor Howard will get that worked out, but it won't be exactly the same as it is now. I'm still going to be doing a podcast on Wednesday at 3 and with a little bit different name, but we're going to aim at a little bit different direction.
Yeah.
So go back about the stuff.
The stuff.
Do you remember the first time you heard about the stuff?
Yeah. You told me about the stuff.
Okay.
The Todd Hill story.
The Todd Hill
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, where he went to church and he was like, "When do we get to do the stuff?" You know, and they was like, "What stuff?"
You know, Pastor Todd, Todd Hill, he's been saved a little while, and he's reading his Bible, he's going to church, he's doing the right thing, and sitting there Sunday after Sunday. And he goes up to a leader in the church. I don't remember whether he said it was the pastor or who. And he said, "Well, when do we get to do the stuff?" The guy looked at him like he was crazy. He said, "What stuff?" And he said, "The stuff." Well, what stuff? What? Laying hands on the sick and casting out demons and that kind of stuff. He said, "Oh, we don't do that. We just read about that." Pastor Todd said, "No way." He said, "I didn't quit drinking. I didn't quit chasing women. I didn't give up everything in my life just so I could sit here. I want to do the stuff."
Yeah.
Tell me about doing the stuff Sunday.
Oh man, it's a feeling. It is. It's a good feeling. It feels good to know that.
What did we do?
Well, we went. Can I say the name?
Yeah.
Oh, we went to KCR, and
Kentucky Christian Recovery Rehab.
Right, and we had some worship. We had some prayer, and there was an altar there that was. It was a packed right there, and it was people that were looking for Jesus, something to fill that void that they had previously been filling, whether it was with drugs or with abusive family, and people wanting to let go of a lot of things that day, that one man that said where his dad abused him, it broke my heart so bad, and granted he was a big guy, Yeah. And so, and no doubt he probably could take up for himself, but it was beat into his head that he wasn't worth much, that there was, that wasn't an option, and that really broke my heart. Because even in the worst of my addiction and all the things and the times I've been incarcerated and this and that, there's never been a day that I haven't known that I was loved by my family, by my wife, my kids, even a close friend. I've always known that I was loved. And there's some people that don't have that. And now I know that God loves me. I know that. And for a long time, I never knew that. I know the song, but I never experienced it. We'll say that.
How many people, you first met me while we were in Hopkins County Jail, and how many people, when I tell them, "I love you," in jail, how many people think, "No way, you don't even know me"?
Right. Yeah.
Is that what you thought?
Yeah. Yeah, really, it was. Yeah. And you don't care if I put our business out there,
No.
do you? Do you remember when I got out? I mean, my wife had a job, we had a car. I mean, we already have a little bit more than some people in my spot. And you gave me some money, and you was like, help you get on your feet, Even that right there, that takes love. I mean, I can't just go up to anybody and hand them my money and say, "Here, I'm number one. I'm not that blessed yet, but I'm working on it." Because I want to get to a point in life where I can say, where I don't have to say, "I'll pray for you." I can say, "Here, I can bless you today. Let me help you with that." That's where I'm trying to go with life. And when I get there, oh man, I'll be. My wife's gonna be mad, but
mine gets that way sometimes too.
Yeah, but yeah, I even now today when we get off the phone, you always tell me, you say I love you, and I used to, I would just hang up on you, because it was weird, it was different.
You telling another guy you love him.
Yeah,
that's weird.
It is weird.
That ain't jailhouse stuff.
Not all jailhouses.
That's another story, but. When I tell somebody I love them, I can only do that through the love of Christ.
Right.
I can only do that through the love of Christ.
Yeah.
And because he loved me, and he gave himself for me, I can, with no reservations, with no hesitations, with nothing but the pure, raw love of God in my heart, I can look at you and say, "I love you, Mike."
I love you too. I do.
And that's only Jesus.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether the guys that I tell that in jail are really doing good, sort of doing good, or not doing good at all. Mm-hmm. I can look at them and say, I love you.
Yeah.
So what was your part in Sunday service?
What do you mean? I sang a few songs, and then I gave a little bit of testimony, and then I prayed with a couple people.
Using a natural gift in a spiritual way.
Yeah.
Okay. Played a couple of songs on the guitar and sang a couple of songs.
Right.
Okay. Although you've been able to do that for many years.
Yeah.
What was different about Sunday doing it?
It always has a purpose behind it, whether it's trying to impress somebody or whatever you're trying to do. There's always a purpose. If you're making money, if you're trying to get attention. But when I sang Sunday, the very first song that I sang, I just went totally blank there. Took some time for Jesus. When I sang that was like a personal testimony there. And the reason I sang that is because I think that's what a lot of people need. They just need to take a little bit of time and talk to Jesus and see what he has to say back, and it can change your whole life. That's why I chose to go with that.
Yes.
And it really felt like I was passing a message for Jesus when I sang that.
You were. Without a doubt, the room received it.
And then I told you on the way up there, I was just going to let the Spirit tell me what to do, because I don't know a lot of worship songs. I'm still reworking my playlist here as I learn all this stuff. But those are two that I know well and I was comfortable with. And
what was the second one?
It was Crowder. All My Hope Is in Jesus. The first time I ever heard that, when Brad sang it here at church, it just wrecked me. It was like, and you asked me every Sunday, you was like, do you trust him yet? And I was like, sure, dude, sure. I can't wait to get out of here so I can go home and get high. Of course I trust him. What are you talking about? And it takes me back to the very beginning of this walk when Jesus grabbed me and he was like, look here, you don't have to do this by yourself. We can do this together. And every time.
That's big, ain't it? When you first realized that.
It is big. It is. It is really big. Like I said, I can't imagine not being loved, but if in a way it's like somebody telling you they love you for the first time, it is. And just, man, the way that it has rearranged my family, because my stepson, he was so heading in my direction really with the anger and the things like that. And
Maverick was seemingly headed to a dark place.
Well, yeah, yeah.
He's still young, okay?
Very impressionable.
So who knows which way it would have went. But it seemingly was headed to a bad place.
Yeah.
And the change in you has made a change in him. Yes?
Definitely, yes. Yes. Out of, by his own mouth, that's what he said.
He's seen it.
He's seen it, yeah. And he's seen me do bad for so long, and that really broke my heart when Heather come to see me. And I said, how's Maverick doing with me being locked up? And she said, he misses you. She said, but he acts just like you. And I was like, all right. She was like, even to the way he talks to me. And she starts crying. And I thought, wow. I've always said being a parent is a very important job, one that I take very serious. And that's what I had let him know that think that it was okay to do, was to talk to her.
It was okay to talk down to his mother because you talked down to her.
Right. Because I'm his male role model in the house, and that's how I'm behaving. So why wouldn't he? Mm-hmm. And I'm so blessed and so thankful that God has given me a chance to correct that and turn that around. And give me the heart to say, hey, I was wrong. This is not how we do this. I've told him that so many times, and he's just like, whatever, how teenagers are. And so now I told him with comfort, and with reassurance, I was like, don't listen to me, but watch me. Watch what God does with me every day, and you'll know that it's the right way to do things. And so with that, we have a whole new understanding and a whole new environment in our home, and we put God at the center of everything that we do.
You said he was watching you.
Yeah.
Philippians 4:9, Paul is speaking. He said, the things which you have learned and received and heard and saw in me, these do.
Mm-hmm.
And the God of peace will be with
With
you.
you, right? Yeah,
That's what you want from him, right?
right. Absolutely.
Do what you're doing.
I want to make sure that my video and my audio match every day,
Okay.
and I pray for that. Right, and my belt loop, I have that.
Tell me about
Right there.
Tell me about this.
Okay, I'm gonna call you all the way out here. Pastor Alan was preaching at Dying to Self, and he says that he tries to lead a godly enough life where he can tell the guys in jail and in his ministry, he says, if you hold my belt loop, I'll lead you to Jesus. And so I called him up as a joke, and I said, let's go get us a tattoo that says belt loop. And then naturally he's a little frightened by it, and he doesn't want to go get one. So my wife's kind of listening to our conversation, and she comes in there and she orders these bracelets for us. And it has Luke 9:23 and 24 on it, and then it has the belt loop on the other side. And it's just kind of a reminder, because one of the hardest things for me to grasp on was what I say. Because for so long without having a filter, I tend to say some of the most inappropriate things at the right times.
Your timing is not good, let's say, at times.
Okay. But, it's just, it helps me a lot, just like on my wedding ring here, she had got my wedding ring with a picture of us and our kids on there. And because I had a bad habit of taking this off a lot, and just leaving it in my car or in my pants pocket. And,
Accidentally.
Accidentally. And she was like, next time you go to take this off when you're not supposed to be, she's like, maybe that picture will make you think twice of what you're doing before you do that. And so it's just a reminder,
No more taking the wedding band off.
No, we're good.
Not even a thought of that now.
No. If I took it off now, you can definitely tell that it's been on there a while, And then the same thing with the belt loop, It's sometimes it does get in the way, it gets snagged on something, or I want to forget it's there, but it always makes me. It reminds me where I come from and where I want to go, because I worry about what I do and say today, but at the end of the day, I really worried about on the end of my days when I take my last breath, is he going to be pleased with me? Did I do what I was called to do? And, that's where my heart's at, really.
Every day of my life, I want my Lord to be pleased with me today.
Absolutely.
Not just an end of life thing. I want him to be pleased with me every single day.
Absolutely.
If, you're still in the working world, so you can't do exactly what I do. But every single day, I do ministry. I deal with people. Most of them are hurting, broken. Every single day, my life is all about leading people to Jesus. Either leading the lost to Jesus or bringing those that have been lost, come out of the darkness, but still need to grow and draw closer. Every single day, that's all I want to do. I don't care anything about deer hunting anymore. I don't care anything about fishing anymore. I don't care anything about sports anymore. I have one singular focus, and that's doing the things of God.
Yeah.
If I'd have told you that statement sometime back, what would you have thought?
What can I say to get out of here as quick as I can? I got to be at work in 2 hours, and I'm already an hour late. I would have come up with something, Yeah.
Because you'd have thought it was, well, that's crazy.
Right, yeah.
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
What do you mean you don't want to hunt no more? What do you mean you don't want to fish no more?
Yeah.
You don't have to be that serious about Jesus.
Right.
I do.
Right. I do too, because if I don't, that was hell on earth for me, living the way that I've lived for so long, and I never want to go back to it, never. You couldn't give me all the dope and the money in the world to go back. Never. And a lot
All
of
the dope, all the money, and a truckload of women to go along with it ain't enough to tempt you to go back, is it?
no way, no. I can look people in the eye today. I can walk around with my head up today. I know that I have a relationship with Jesus today, and I'm a man of integrity today.
You said look people in the eye today.
Yeah.
What did I tell you the other day?
Which I mean, I don't know.
About the way you looked before you got serious.
Oh yeah. You said I had darty eyes, shifty eyes. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I always wore sunglasses. It could be 10 o'clock at night, and I put my glasses on because that's what normal people do. But I don't know how much time we got left here.
We got probably 10 minutes.
Okay, well, there's something that I really want to say on here.
Okay, I'm going to give the rest of it to you.
Okay, all right.
10 minutes is yours completely.
Okay. I don't know how many people watch this that go to our dying to self or that struggle with that. And I love this church. I do this. There is not a day since the first time I walked in the door here that I have not felt like family, that I have not felt a love and compassion. And that's not common when you're an addict or coming from that lifestyle. And the river has always embraced me and my family, even when I thought that I was fooling everybody. It was still I love you. And that being said, I love being here. I hate it that I have to miss days because of work. But dying to self on Friday, there is a different presence of God here than I've ever felt in my life. Because on Fridays we're here, and a lot of those people are in such a real way fighting for their life, fighting for the next day, for their breath, desperately. And that right there, that makes God show up and show out right there. It does. And I'm so thankful for that. If it wasn't for dying to self, I don't think that the second go around, I may not have come back from it. Because, and I would sit there and I would think, is this real? I mean, what am I doing here? I don't understand, and it took me a long time to get it, and just the dying to self, that with Jesus's love and compassion and mercy for me mixed together, it saved my life. It changed me internally forever. And a lot of people that I invite to the dying to self, I call it church. It's church to me. I don't really call it dying to self, but I invite these people, and they're like, I'm not coming to church. And I tell them, I'll be like, it's more than church. It really is. And I think 90% of our people that show up come from Hopkins County Jail, really, right? A lot of them.
Maybe not 90%, but a huge percentage.
There's been some nights where I know that 702 take up one whole section sitting there, But and that's good. That's good. But it really moves me. It is so powerful here on Friday nights. Even if you're not struggling with addiction, it is definitely something you should come and try. Because like I said, there's always the presence of God. But on that particular night, it is so much stronger because there's so much more desperation here. I've seen people come in here with dirty work clothes on, and people just lay in the floor for an hour. And it's all with it's their life-saving measure, really. It's not to make grandma happy. It's not to make the kids happy, or some people come to get a paper signed. I get my own paper signed,
yeah.
But it is definitely a life-saving ordeal. And I just can't stress that enough on how many people I would love to see show up here that I know that Jesus would just totally wreck them if they would show up. And so I just want to emphasize on that, how much I love it here on Friday nights.
You invite people regularly.
I do, and I have a slogan that I even give them now. You can come here and we will feed your soul and we will feed your stomach, and either way you're going to leave different than you got here.
Amen.
Yeah. That's my little catchphrase right there.
We're about out of time.
All right.
But what could tempt you to go back?
Nothing. No, you could.
Ain't happening.
No. I'm planning firmly on that. No.
What will you tell somebody that's watching today and they're hanging in the balance? They've already slipped a little bit from where they were.
Mm-hmm.
And they're hanging in the balance between coming back to Jesus or going back to the dark side.
For my own self, when I was hanging in that balance, I hadn't fully surrendered yet. You know, I had a little taste of Jesus, but not enough to know that it was going to change my world. And if somebody had put it to me this way, it would have made all the difference in the world. But that life will always be there. I mean, that's a fact. It's been there forever. It's always going to be there as long as this earth is spinning. So if you surrender to Jesus, if you really surrender, you got a whole new life. You got a whole new everything. Okay, a newfound respect for yourself, a newfound love with your family, a new relationship with Jesus. You have all this to gain. And if you don't, then that life's always there. So what do you have to lose if that's where you want to stay? So you can. I mean, and it doesn't cost you anything. You know, it's free. All you have to have is the desire. You know, the desire to want Jesus and to want a relationship and to change, and you can gain the world, or you can.
It cost Jesus everything.
It did, absolutely. It
don't cost us anything.
No, we give what was freely given. You know. But that'll always be there. So, you know, it might take 30 minutes of your time for prayer or for a church service or something, which is nothing in comparison into the time you will spend chasing dope and lying and crying and hurting and probably sitting in jail. You know, I mean, it's too. Why would you not take it? You know, and when I see people like my friend that I saw in jail. And I see him in that state, and I thought, well, if Jesus did that for him, then I know he can do it for me because I'm not as bad as he is, you know?
And we always play that, don't we? I'm not as bad as he is.
Right. But we don't know, you know, people don't know what happens behind closed doors either. You may be the worst one of the group. But, you know, and that's what I hope when people see me, they see that God is working and he lives in me. And I hope that inspires people.
It does, Mike.
I hope it does. I pray for that every day.
I have to look no further than Maverick to know that it inspires people.
Yeah. Well,
because you changed the next generation.
Yeah. And he didn't have anything.
And you know, your daughters.
Yeah.
Although one of them sees it and is on board, kind of.
Yeah.
The other one is completely not on board.
Not at all.
But they see.
Yeah, I
you
hope
just
so.
keep doing what you need to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, my youngest one was with me, and we prayed for somebody that I used to get high with. Right. Like pulled over on the side of the road and prayed, and when I got back in the truck, she was like, "That was awesome." You know, and that was great. You know, and when my dad died, you know, we went down there, and this was before I'd went to jail or anything. I had no understanding of Jesus. And my stepmom's there, and she's like, well, somebody's got to say the blessing over this food. And we're all just looking at each other like, I don't know the words. And so I was like, okay, he was my dad. You know, I'm the man here. I said, I'll do it. And you know, my dad had just died 12 hours before in a car crash, drinking and driving. And so I got, you know, our family standing there, and I never even mentioned my dad in my prayer. I was like, well, thank God that we all made it here safe, and thank God for the food. And my daughter was like, that was so bad, Dad. She said, that was horrible. And that's what she told me that day after we prayed for that girl. And she was like, that was so much better than when Papa died. And I was like, well, thanks. You know, but she got to see me. You know, she got to see the new me that God has built, that He lives in me. And she got to see that rather than me just telling her that. Because I told them so much over the last few years, you know, we're going to go right. And then as soon as they're not looking, I go left, you know. And so I've got a lot of trust to win back there with them, and but nothing is impossible with God. So I mean I don't lose sleep over it. It's not a worry, and like I didn't make this mess overnight. I know that it won't be fixed overnight.
I dropped a challenge on our people.
Yeah.
Friday night. What was it?
and to read the Bible cover to cover in 60 days.
How are you doing?
I'm up to date. I'm up to date, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on how you read, every day. And it hasn't got difficult yet, but once we get to Numbers and oh, I don't know. I'm wondering, like, do we have a skip one or two pass that we can get? Because that's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult.
You just have to dig in.
I will dig in. I will.
You just have to dig in.
I will.
We talk about stuff like that every morning.
Yeah.
Typically, Mike and I talk for at least a half an hour, a lot of times an hour.
Yeah.
Starting at 6 a.m. every morning.
Yeah.
That's our routine. Okay. When you first begin this walk, you have to have somebody that you can walk with.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be me. I'm nobody special at all. I don't think real highly of myself like that. But you've got to have somebody that's walking the walk that'll walk with you.
Well, I don't agree with all that. I'm sorry, but you definitely are somebody special. Do you know how many lives have been changed because you spoke the gospel to them? How many people lives have changed, have a relationship with kids and with parents because Alan took the time to come back and see them, or Alan took the time to tell them who Jesus is?
I don't even like to think of that, Mike.
Well, that makes you somebody special. Okay? It does.
That never...
Well, it does. I'm very thankful for you.
That's doing the stuff.
Yeah, it is doing the stuff. It does.
You're going to do the stuff.
I hope so. I do. I'm a very teachable, willing vessel to do whatever God wants me to do.
Amen.
Yeah.
We gotta pray, and then you gotta get out of here and go to work.
Yeah.
Mike, it's been a great hour.
Yeah, it has.
And these last couple of months, guiding you through these first steps have been a blast.
Thank you for taking the time to help me.
They've been a blast.
Thank you for seeing something in me that you thought was worth helping, and for taking the time to help me and my family, because I know I call you about everything, Yeah.
I seen Jesus in you is what I seen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pray us out.
Father, we come to you in prayer today, and thank you for this opportunity to share and to spend some time with Alan. Thank you for all the blessings that you've given me in my life, and thank you for the family here at the river. And I pray, God, that somebody that is struggling, that needed some answers, seen this today, and they know that they're not the only one struggling, and they know where they can get help, and they know that you love them. And I mean, I'm at a loss for words. And Jesus, thank you so much for the more than one chance. It took me several tries, and I'm so thankful that you are a God of, so many chances. And thank you for the sacrifice that you made so that I have the ability to ask for forgiveness and to experience love and joy in life and all that. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Easy there, killer.